Hello, Epic. I want to say a big good morning to our problem solvers and our thinkers, and I want to say a good afternoon to the explorers. Today, I'm going to be reading a book that continues our weekly theme of germs. Today's book is called Inside Your Insides, a guide to the microbes that call you home. Let's get started. Meet your microbes. You might think you're alone, but you're not. Ever. Wherever you go, tiny hitchhikers tag along for the ride. Some have been hanging around your body since before you were born, and some are climbing aboard right now, maybe even from the pages of this book, or from your computer or iPad. But don't panic. Most of them are harmless. The hitchhikers are actually microbes, tiny living things, so small that you need a microscope to see them. And every person carries around trillions and trillions of these critters. They are part of what science call your microbiome. A biome is a group of plants, animals, and other organisms, living things, that all live in a similar kind of place. The tropical rainforest and the Arctic tundra are examples of different biomes. A microbiome is much the same, except the organisms are microscopic and the place is a lot smaller. Where will you find your collection of microbes? Everywhere. They're inside and outside of you, in your nose and mouth, in your lungs, between your toes, in your hair and eyelashes, and snuggled in the warm hollow behind your ears. And a huge number of microbes live in your gut, just as in the rainforest, where some kinds of organisms live in the treetops and others down in the tree roots. Different kinds of microbes settle in the places that suit them best. In some ways, you might even be more microbe than you are human. Scientists estimate that for every human cell in your body, there's at least one microbe cell, and maybe as many as 10. But those microbes aren't alien invaders. The truth is, you need them, and they need you. Microbes and humans have been together for so long that we depend on each other to survive. So in a way, microbes are us. Now, did you know it's not really possible to count the microbes or cells in a human body? You can only take an educated guess. Currently, the best guesses place the number of microbes in the average adult human between 100 trillion and 200 trillion. That's a lot. If you counted all day and all night, every day, it would take you more than 3,000 years just to get to 100 trillion. Whoa. What are microbes? Most of the microscopic organisms traveling in you and on you are just a single cell, or something even smaller. Some can make you sick, and others do little more than hang out and keep you company. But plenty of microbes are actually good for you. They help you digest food, train your immune system, and fight disease, produce chemicals that keep you healthy, or even form protective layers that block other, more harmful microbes. All microbes are small, but that doesn't mean they're all the same. Here's a guide to the most common microbial hitchhikers. Bacteria. These single-celled organisms are found almost everywhere on Earth, from deep underground to high in the sky. Wow. A few are big enough to be seen with the naked eye, but the bacteria in your microbiome are much smaller than that. In fact, several 100,000 of them would fit on the pointy end of a pin. I have to say that again because that's so cool. Several 100,000 of them would fit on the pointy end of a pin. That's really small. There are more bacteria on Earth than any other kind of organism, and they are probably the most common kind of microbe in your microbiome. Archaea. This is another group of single-celled organisms, but they are not closely related to bacteria. Archaea are experts in surviving in tough places. One kind can even live in acid strong enough to eat through metal. Others, though, hang out in comfier places, such as your belly button. Viruses. Smaller than a cell, each one is just a few scraps of genetic code inside a protective coating. The virus that causes the common cold contains only 10 genes. Compared to the 20,000 genes in a human cell, viruses can't make energy or reproduce on their own. Instead, they invade a cell and trick it into making copies of the virus. Sometimes the copies slip out through the cell wall and go in search of more cells to invade. Sometimes the cell just keeps creating viruses until it explodes, spreading viruses everywhere. Fungi. This group includes everything from single yeast cells to huge mushrooms. The fungi in and on your body are these single-celled varieties that adore warm, damp spots, like the spaces between your toes. Protists. These tiny single-celled relatives of fungi, animals, and plants are bigger than a lot of other microbes, but still microscopic. Some protists cause serious disease, but many of them just live with us as a part of us. Mites. Relatives of spiders and scorpions. Mites are the giants of your microbiome. But you still need a microscope to see them. They're especially fond of your hair follicles and the oil glands in your skin. Did you know that you had relatives of spiders and scorpions on you right now? This is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. You can see here that they have pictures of bacteria, archaea, viruses. I know that virus looks very familiar right now. Fungi, protists, and mites. This little guy is saying, what did the criminal virus say to the bacteria? What did the criminal virus say to the bacteria? I'm going to bust out of this cell. Clever. We are not alone. Let's read this little guy's joke first. Not sure you like your microbes? Don't worry, they'll grow on you. You get it? Right now, you might be thinking, yuck! Why are all these bugs picking on me? Well, don't worry. You're not alone. Everyone and everything on Earth is in the same boat. We live in an invisible sea of microbes. They're in the air, the water, the soil, and every living thing. And they've been here for a long, long time. In fact, the first living things on Earth were microbes, organisms that contain lots of cells, from dandelions to dinosaurs to people. Didn't come along until a couple of billion years later. We owe a great deal to those tiny ancient cells, especially a group called cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria. They were the first Earth organisms to use the sun's energy to run their own little cellular engines, just as plants do today. That is so cool. When they appear in Earth's oceans, at least 2.5 billion years ago, there was little or no life on land, and nothing of any size in the oceans. But cyanobacteria transformed the planet. They floated through the sea, gobbling up sunlight and minerals and pumping out waste products. One of the waste products was oxygen. For hundreds of millions of years, waste oxygen slowly seeped into Earth's oceans and atmosphere. And just as slowly, new creatures evolved. Creatures that needed oxygen to live. That includes most of the animals alive today, both on land and in water. And it includes us. Without the oxygen produced by ocean microbes, we wouldn't exist. Fortunately, bacteria are still pumping oxygen into our atmosphere. Ocean microbes produce half the world's oxygen. The other half comes from plants on land, which contain oxygen-producing microbes of their own. Without microbes, we wouldn't have anything to breathe. We also wouldn't have anything to eat. Plants can't grow without the help of microbes in the soil, and bacteria in their tissues help to capture the sun's energy. The bacteria in their tissues help to capture the sun's energy. Animals depend on microbes too. The tiny animals that eat microbes are in turn eaten by bigger animals, all the way through the food web to the animals we eat, and a few animals that might like to eat us. If all the world's microbes disappeared tomorrow, other living things would disappear soon afterward, including people. So, respect your microbes. You owe them a lot. Did you know some bacteria can eat electricity? They gobble up electrons given off by rocks and minerals, especially in the muck at the bottom of the sea. Microzap. It's so cool. Oh my goodness. The war against microbes. We are walking microbiomes, part microbe and part human. But we haven't always been kind to our microbe side. Although, to be fair, for a long time, we didn't even know our microbes even existed. They were just too small for us to see. Once we had microscopes, though, we discovered a whole world of microbes. Still, nobody thought they were important because how could something that small possibly affect a person? then everything changed about 150 years ago. That's when scientists discovered that some microbes, they called them germs, would cause serious diseases in humans. That's when we declared war on microbes. And did you know, more than 330 years ago, there lived a Dutchman, Antony von Leeuwenhoek, who was fascinated by the world he saw through his handmade microscopes. One day, he squinted at a drop of water through one of his lenses and saw tiny creatures wiggling and spinning and busily living their lives. It was the first time anyone had seen microbes. He began searching for microbes everywhere, even in gunk scraped from people's teeth. And what a treasure he found in the mouths of two old men who had never used a toothbrush. Their gunk seethed with tiny squirming creatures. Van Leeuwenhoek had just discovered bacteria in living people. Living in people. It made sense. If you got rid of germs, you would get rid of disease. It was a great idea that led to important changes, such as cleaner homes and hospitals, better sewage and garbage systems, and the development of new medicines, especially penicillin and other antibiotics that attacked disease-causing bacteria. But we went too far. It turned out that our microbiomes are far more complicated than we realize. A lot of those microbes keep us healthy. We need them, and yet we were killing them off along with the bad microbes. Today, scientists are trying to understand how our microbiomes work and how to help them work well. That means going back to the beginning to where our microbes come from. Did you know? What's the difference between a microbe and a germ? Not much. Both are names for tiny, mostly single-celled organisms. Some make us sick, but most don't. But because we usually think of a germ as something that makes us sick, we're using the word microbe in this book. Interesting. Think about that. The making of our microbiome. What's the first lesson in microbe business school? How to sell yourself. I like this clever little joke sell. Okay. Maybe I'll wait for the siren to go by as we explore these pictures. We collect microbes from everything we touch, eat, or get close to. And that process starts even before we're born. People used to think that babies were free of microbes until they made their journey down their mother's birth canal, where they picked up some of her microbes. But recently, some Spanish researchers found microbes in meconium, a newborn baby's first poop. Not long after that, some American scientists found microbes in placentas, the organs that nourish babies inside their mother's bodies. From these two discoveries, the scientists realized that babies collect microbes even in the months before they are born. But where do these microbes come from? Scientists found that the mix of microbes in newborn babies is similar to the mix found in an adult's mouth, rather than in a birth canal. Somehow, microbes from the mother's mouth travel through her body and affect the microbiome of her unborn baby. After birth, babies pick up more microbes quickly. By the time a baby is 1 month old, a tiny bit of its poop, just enough to cover the tip of a small spoon, already contains 1 trillion microbes. As you grow older, you collect more and more microbes from many different sources. Every time you take a breath, you inhale thousands of spores, the little reproductive forms of fungi. Every bite you eat contains bacteria, archaea, and viruses. When you pet a puppy, go to school, play on the beach, or visit a friend's house, you collect even more microbes. Your body's collection of mites grows more slowly. You pick them up from contact with other people. Babies love nuzzling, rubbing their faces against their parents. In the process, the baby picks up tiny mites that settle into their hair follicles and oil glands. When a baby grows into a teenager, a young adult, and snuggles with a girlfriend or boyfriend, he or she picks up another dose of mites. By the time we're adults, we all have our own population of mites. Now, did you know, depending on where you live in the world, that mosquito or tick that gave you an itchy bite might have also left an unwelcome gift of microbes behind. Several nasty illnesses, such as malaria, sleeping sickness, and Lyme disease, are caused by microbes that are transferred to humans through insect bites. Some of your microbes are bad guys. I want you guys to pay extra attention to these next 2 pages because this is what we're going to talk about on Flipgrid. I know this book is kind of long. You're doing great so far. Not every microbe in your microbiome is your friend. 1/4 of all infectious diseases are caused by microbes. That includes some really serious diseases, such as tuberculosis, as well as others. The common cold, for example, that are just messy and annoying. Remember the 2 old men who never brushed their teeth? Some of the tiny wriggly bacteria in their mouths were troublemakers that caused toothaches, cavities, and gum disease. By the time those men met Antony von Leeuwenhoek and his microscope, they probably didn't have a full set of teeth between them. Bacteria can cause anything from bad breath to a deadly plague. In the 1300s, a sickness called the Black Death swept across Asia and Europe. It killed millions of people on both continents, including as many as 1/3 of the people living in Europe at the time. The villain was a bacterium called Yersinia pestis, or Y. pestis. Knock, knock. Who's there? Germ. Germ who? Germ mind if I come in? All right. The Y. pestis bacteria got into rats, mice, and other small animals and made them sick. Fleas spread the disease by sucking up infected blood from one animal and passing some of the bacteria along to the next animal they bit. Sometimes that next victim was human. In people, Y. pestis causes plague, and once people catch it, the plague can spread quickly. Sick people coughed out droplets containing bacteria. Other people breathed them in and got it too. And they too got sick. And so the disease continued to spread, killing as it went. Viruses sometimes spread through coughing too. Human rhinovirus The virus that causes most head colds spreads by making your nose run. Then you cough and sneeze and drip, spreading virus-laden mucus about. People breathe in droplets of the mucus or touch them, and the virus has a new victim. Fungi can also be bad guys, or at least very annoying guys. A common kind of fungus produces dandruff, which makes your scalp itch and flake. Another kind of fungus causes athlete's foot, which can produce cracks in the skin between your toes. Some protists can do serious damage. Malaria, which makes millions of people sick each year and kills hundreds of thousands, is caused by tiny protists that pass to people through a mosquito bite. Now, did you know the memory of the Black Death is still with us? The nursery rhyme, Ring Around the Rosy, began as a verse describing the symptoms of the plague. And we still tell the legend of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, who piped the rats out of town to save the townsfolk from the Black Death. Now this is important. Some of your microbes are good guys. Now, did you know, according to a 2015 report, the world champions of microbiome variety are the Yanomami people who live in the Amazon jungle. Their microbiomes contain many different kinds of microbes, far more than any human biome ever studied before. Wow, that is fascinating. A lot of the microbes in your body are actually good guys. In fact, some of them fight off the bad guy microbes, or at least keep them under control. Bacteriophages, phages for short, are an example. They're viruses that infect and kill bacteria, including some kinds of bacteria that make us sick. Now, phages were discovered during World War I by a Canadian doctor named Felix de Herelle. He was trying to find a way to treat dysentery, a dangerous kind of diarrhea that was making soldiers sick and even killing them. De Herelle was growing dysentery bacteria in his lab, but something was killing them, something too small to see. He realized that a virus was attacking the bacteria, and he found a way to turn it into a medicine for the sick soldiers. It saved a lot of lives. After the war, de Herelle developed more medicines using phages. However, researchers still don't really understand viruses, and doctors were uneasy about giving patients medicine they didn't understand. Then, penicillin and other antibiotics came along. They were cheaper and easier to make, and they worked. Today, however, when antibiotics aren't always effective, scientists are taking another look at phages. Even though bacteria get a bad name for causing disease, most bacteria actually do good things for us. Some are even your first line of defense. Bacteria on your skin gobbles up the waxy stuff that skin cells produce and make oily substance that help keep your skin from drying and cracking. That's important because cracks in your skin are wide open doors to some of the nasty bacteria that can make you sick. But the real treasure trove of bacteria is in your gut. Your digestive system. It's teeming with bacteria that work away at the food you eat, gobbling up things your digestive system can't handle, and producing waste products in your body. And producing waste products that your body actually can absorb. According to one estimate, as many as 10% of your body's energy is produced by gut microbes. Whoa. Microbes also break down the waste material in your gut, using them as food and turning the rest into a form your body can get rid of easily. Poop. In fact, a lot of microbes leave your body every day as part of your poop. Now, did you know? Even bad guys can be good guys sometimes. Human rhinovirus can give you a terrible cold, but not always. About 4 out of 10 people who have the virus in their system don't get sick. Instead, their immune systems block the virus. Exposure to not too serious germs, such as rhinovirus, can help keep your immune system ready to fight off much more dangerous microbes. All right, Epic. I'm going to pause right there because as fascinating as that book is, I think it's a little too long for one read aloud. If you are interested in reading the rest of the book with me, I am going to post me reading the rest of that book onto the Problem Solver virtual classroom, so you can find it there. But for right now, after reading the first half of that book, this is what I would like you to answer on Flipgrid. How can germs be good and bad? How can germs be good? How can germs be bad? Take a moment to think it over, head on over to Flipgrid, and I will see you there. Bye, Epic!